Okay, everybody, welcome back to a video here on a bit of a project that I'm going to be doing. Apologise in advance, I haven't been doing any recently, long projects, work commitments. I was away on holiday, and then just before Christmas, wee doggy had to get put down and stuff, so it sort of put me off doing videos around Christmas and things. And then just for the new year, it was crazy with work, so this is the first sort of opportunity I've got to post something properly and to do a project that was worth videoing. Obviously I've been doing some shorts, had the motorbike and stuff out, which I'll get back into, the enduro, and this incidentally is what's caused this here issue. Basically I purchased a van. This is a 2006 long wheelbase Renault Trafic 1.9. So this came up. I used to have a Ford Galaxy for getting my mountain bike about, and this here came up, and obviously the motorbike didn't fit in the back of the Ford Galaxy, so this came up at very good money, basically scrap money. It was running and driving. It had a bit of an engine noise, and I took a gamble on it and drove it for a couple of weeks, messed out with it, and basically just the noise got worse, and the engine is just, it's no good. It's basically locked up now, burns in the bottom end. So my original plan was to sell this van just for what I paid for it and get rid of it. However, when I started looking about, I realized it's going to cost me sort of 4 or 5 times the amount of that to try and replace it with something again. So I decided what I'm going to do is actually take the gearbox, which is good from this, and put it into this van, which I've purchased. Now, this van here is 2 years older. It's a Vauxhall Vivaro, and it's again a 1.9. However, it is sort of nearly in better condition. It has, and you're not going to see it, I'm sort of limited by space because where I'm working today. So it has alloy wheels. Somebody's put even a Recaro seat into it, and it's just generally outside, it's better condition. So the engine in it's perfect, and I picked it up again for really, really cheap money. So between the two of the vans, we're going to take the bits and pieces out of one and make a good one, and then ultimately I'll still be left with a lot of parts to sell, so it shouldn't cost me anything. Basically I'll have a free van by the end of it. So unfortunately the labour isn't free, and that's what we're going to get into today. So pretty much what I'm going to do is get the two front ends pulled off these two vans. We'll get them placed away in the back. I'm going to bag up all the bolts and screws, and we're going to get as much stripped off as I possibly can. So I'll probably take the gearbox from this one first. I haven't, well, it doesn't really matter, whatever one I take the gearbox from first, and then we'll get it swapped over, have a look at the clutch, although I suspect I'll probably just put a clutch into it. And then once we've got it running and driving, the interior of this one, sorry again for space, I'm in a friend's garage here instead of my own, because it's just, I needed the two things sitting side by side. So somebody has put a single seat into that, a Recaro seat out of a Mondeo, and they've taken the double seat out. They've done the same thing. They had a van and they were using better bits and pieces of it. And this one here, although the seats are a bit grubby, the interior is a bit better, so most of the stuff, if not all of the stuff in these vans, swaps over. So this is a long wheelbase one, but there's not much difference in it. So with a tow bar and things here, which I'll probably transfer over, and a few other bits and pieces, but that's when we get to the cosmetics. So what you're going to see me do, there is no point, there's hundreds of videos on stripping gearboxes and things out of these. So what I'm going to do is do a hyperlapse of the stripping of the front, which will come off very quick, and I'll break in various parts of it or any sort of issues I'm having. But basically you'll just see the two of these coming apart, and with a bit of luck, gearboxes getting swapped over, and then this one driving out. I've already advertised this for parts, and pretty much with 2 or 3 phone calls on parts that I don't need, is going to cover the price that I paid for the van. So like I say, a bit of labour, and hopefully it's interesting for you to watch, and we'll see how we get on. So what you're watching is me taking out the headlights remove them, remove all the wiring. Then I'm removing all the screws from the splash guards from the bumper, removing the front indicators from the bumper, and taking the bumper away. I've had a bit of issues, that's what took me time, but you'll see further on. And also then moving the plastic modular front piece, the front panel. This is designed in such a way so that if you're doing any jobs, timing belts, alternators, things like that, people will usually take these out of the way to give themselves good access. So that's what you're watching at the minute, and you see I get through it fairly quickly. Um, Even though a few screws and bolts had been changed. And I started stripping the two vehicles at once and just decided to concentrate on the Vauxhall to get it done first, and then to move on to the Renault further on in the video. Okay, you're back, and it's 10 o'clock, so that was about 40 minutes ish. And to be honest, this bolt here in the side of the bumper had seized in, and that's probably what took up a good 10 or 15 minutes of it, trying to get at that without damaging anything. So what you're looking at, the headlights are taken off. We've got the intercooler comes off on the front panel, which is the plastic modular part there. It sits on top. I'll just show you this piece here. So intercooler, a couple of pipes, couple of bolts, really easy to come out. Somebody's obviously been here before and loosened a lot of bolts, replaced a lot of bolts, so you see me back and forward quite a bit, instead of just using the standard size bolts. Obviously there was a few different ones, but I'll rectify that when I put it back together. So probably going to take this crash bar off for access. Going to drain the radiator. Just realised that I have nothing here actually. Of all the things, I have nothing to drain the water into. I don't want to spill it around the floor, so we'll figure that out. And then strip back a few pipes and start to get a look at the gearbox. I started in between the two vans. I was trying to mirror it, but decided just to concentrate on one. So I'm going to repeat the same thing now with this one, and we'll get the front all off it, and then again we'll get it to the same stage as this. And I'm going to take as much as possible off to give myself access. I mean, you can see already before I even start taking pipes back that, you know, for half an hour, 40 minutes to have all that out, why would you not just do that, you know, when you're working with these? Quite straightforward. No crazy tools, mixture of 10 mil sockets, and I just used a wee impact gun and a few torques, and that was it. So go back into recording the stripping of this one. I think this will be a bit more, there's a few more screws and bits and pieces, and this is a different sort of style. This is, I can't really show you now, but the bumper's different. It's color coded here. This is a different sort of shape, and the grill's different. There's a few differences, but you can swap these bits and pieces over. So if I would rather the color coded bumper, but then I've got a Renault badge on it, so we'll see what we'll come up with. Maybe do some sort of hybrid thing. So just to show you where I've got to, I'm keeping all the bolts separate for each van, and that helps in the future. Although I'm not planning this sitting for a few days, but labeling everything, knowing where everything goes is half the battle when you're putting it back together. And basically I'm just putting all the bits and pieces into each van, respective van, so I know where they are when I'm looking for them. So that's where we're at, and we'll break into this one now and see how we get on with this one. So moving on to the Renault, you see me removing the top section of the grille underneath the headlights. I then remove the screws out of the splash guard and underneath the bumper. Moving on to, once the bumper's removed and the headlights and all, everything's out of the way, you'll see some extra plastic trims which were on this bumper. They're bumper carriers and plastics. Again, a few issues, different screws and bolts, rusted bolts, and a few extra wee bits to take off. But I'll soon get through that, and then you see me working at the crash bar in behind the bumper protector, or in behind the bumper. It's impact if somebody crashes into you. So you see me getting the bolts out of that. Again, a wee bit tricky, and then that's that one stripped as well. Right, okay, so that's just about an hour and 20 minutes, and this one, same again, had a lot of crazy type bolts, which I'll show you, which are like masonry type bolts and things holding things on. So bit of a faff trying to get some of them off, a few rusted bolts, but pretty much now we're in the same position. Both fans, that's the whole front off. I'm going to start stripping some of the water pipes and things off, some of these intercooler pipes. I say I'm waiting on a container coming to empty the radiator, bizarre of all things that it didn't have anything here. I haven't actually, this isn't my place, so I haven't got things here. It's just I'm very lucky that I was able to put two of these in here and do the job. So next step's going to be radiators out, disconnect the hoses, then I think we'll take the gearbox out of this one first, because this is the one that's going to be going to scrap ultimately, or the donor. So anything that I need's good. It's funny because this van is generally cleaner outside, but around the engine parts and things it isn't as clean, whereas this one here is very rough around the outside and it's a lot cleaner. So out of the two of them we'll end up with a nice van. And say it's these old vans, people have had them on and off. This is for most of the work. Your timing belt's just here. You know, for most of the work it's better just to strip that front off, and as you can see, even with hassles, I'm able to get it done in about an hour and 20 minutes. So I'll carry on a wee bit, break back in at various stages. You've seen the main parts, so we'll get the water drained out and I'll probably manoeuvre them about a bit, start taking wheels off and getting them jacked up, and move forward from there. Right, so moving a bit more forward, we have taken off the radiator and a few of the radiator hoses off this one, and that's showing me the bolts and things where I need to go. And a bit further in this one, I've actually pulled back the electrical box. All this is only 10mm bolts, very quick, and it's allowed me to get into the cables. And again, having a look in, somebody has DIY'd the cable, one of the adjusters with cable ties before. So this is the sort of things you come across with repairs. Mine, on the other hand, has been replaced. Yeah, it's going to be a bit harder to see. It's actually in there. You can just see the silver tip of it there. We'll have a bit more to strip at that. So again, I'll just keep stripping away and keep coming back in at different bits. Basically, we're going to take the clutch off the cylinder here, get the fluid out of it, and start on the bolts around the engine here. And I'm not sure anything else is going to be that tricky. Famous last words. So I'll come back to you shortly and let you see how I'm getting on. Okay, moving a wee bit further on. What I've done is I have brought this van forward, jacked it up, and no matter how much I tried and levered this drive shaft, the big nut is just not coming. So I've undone the strut, undone the steering the tie rod, and basically I'm going to just pull it. That should give me enough access to get the shaft out from the other side. I'm going to pull the gearbox out, oil out, stripped a lot more. I'm going to get a torch. So I've stripped a lot more at this and basically exposed all the bolts, taken off the cables, and next step is going to be to get this wheel and associated bits off, and we'll get going to get the gearbox oil drained out of it and start pulling the shafts out, and then I can think about lowering the mounting here, lowering it down, get access to it. So this is all very much trial by error at the minute on this one, and then the other one's pushed back out of the way. So once the gearbox, I'll pull that forward and do the same thing with it. So bit of an update just. Right, so 2 o'clock now in the afternoon. I'm going to have to leave this for probably the day. As I said, I got this stage when I was having issues with the big drive nut on here, and I just don't think that my gun, I had a straight bar on it, and I also had the bar of the jack handle on it, and it snapped it. So I'm gonna go and get a proper big gun for taking that off. I also had to go and get a set of oil drains, the wee sump plugs, something that I haven't had for years. I've always borrowed and stuff up in my other garage. So got to this stage here as well with this. That's obviously just screwdrivers in there for trying to turn the big nut. So right now the gearbox oil is draining away, and all we're coming back to do tomorrow is get them, hopefully them two big drive nuts off, take the shafts out of the back of the gearbox, and then we're just going to work around, take the bolts off where they need to come off, and start to lower this down. So that's about 5-6 hours or so in total, really. At 5 hours maybe at the most. So I think that's a pretty respectable start. When you join me tomorrow, we'll be hopefully pulling shafts off and starting to split the box.